All right, well, let's start our lecture today by talking about the Bantu migrations. Now, the word Bantu means people in many Bantu languages. And this refers to a group of about 500 African languages and all the people of whom speak it. There are about 90 million of these people in the world today who speak Bantu languages. And as you can see from our maps right up here, they cover most of sub-Saharan Africa. Now, when I say sub-Saharan Africa, that means Africa underneath the Sahara. Here's the Sahara Desert, and here would be sub-Saharan Africa. Now, the first Bantu speakers seem to have lived in a region which today is near Nigeria and Cameroon. We would kind of call this like the notch of Western Africa, located about right here. And these early Neolithic people were able to adapt yams, bananas, which may have, we don't know for sure, may have originated in Malaysia and made their way to Africa. So what we do know is that with the growing of bananas, yams, sweet potatoes, or camote, having this crop, what it allowed was, it allowed these African people to basically farm. And after the yams and bananas came in, also cereal crops like wheat came in from Samaria, Mesopotamia, Central Asia area through trade, because the Bantu people were trading with societies in Nubia, which if I look on the map, would be around this area, Nubia and Egypt, and came in through here, and the Bantus were trading with them, the Bantu people, and that allowed them to have yams, bananas, wheat. Then they started domesticating animals, and these people were able to farm. And as we find out in history, the general pattern is the farmers gradually take over the land from the hunters and gatherers. And that's kind of what happened with the Bantu. The Bantu then spread, and they spread throughout most of sub-Saharan Africa. Here we see two pictures here, two of the maps of how they spread. And we see the Bantu spreading until they take over all of sub-Saharan Africa. Now, another reason why they were able to do this, because they had agriculture, and then after this came ironworking. They were able to develop ironworking, which we see our tools right here. So they had iron, which allowed them to build a couple things. One thing it allowed them to do was it allowed them to easily cut down trees that were in a forested region, and many of the Bantu were able to then cut down these trees and use what's called slash and burn agriculture. The way slash and burn agriculture basically works is that you have a whole huge forest. You cut out like one small section of it. You grow your crops there. Then once you've kind of exhausted the soil and you can't use it anymore, you move on to another section. You cut down the trees there. You let the first section come back. And then you kind of grow there for a while. Then you move on to another section after about 10 years. You move to another section about 10 years. Move to another section after about 10 years. And the original plots where you grew gradually get reforested, or the trees come back because you're no longer growing crops there. And this would be slash and burn agriculture, which in theory you can do pretty much forever. So they were using slash and burn agriculture, and the iron tools let them cut down trees, let them plow the soil, because with iron tools you can plow the soil more easily, and allow them to grow their crops. So the Bantu began to expand throughout sub-Saharan Africa, and they have iron also, which can be used as weapons, which means if you have iron weapons, you're going to beat people who don't have iron weapons. So let's say they're using wood or something like that. Iron weapons tend to win. And also the Bantu, the hardwood trees of Africa burn at a pretty high level. They burn very hot, which allowed them to do the metalworking or the blacksmith work, which allowed them to make this iron. So the Bantu, they first started to expand about 3,500 years ago. That'd be about 1500 BC. And again, this is after the yams and bananas come in. They get their cereal crops. They develop their iron, and then they kind of spread, and they take over non-Bantu people. So the Bantu are kind of people who dominate sub-Saharan Africa today. And they weren't always there, though. There were other people who were living in these areas, more hunter and gather people. The Kolosai were one group of people, and the Pygmies were another group of people who lived in this area. And they kind of get pushed out to the side as the Bantu come in and take their land. So the Bantu take over the Sahel. The Sahel is an area just underneath the Sahara Desert. And then they take over all of sub-Saharan Africa. By 300 AD, again, Bantu speakers occupy most of Africa south of the Sahara. They establish a major kingdom called Zimbabwe by the year 1000, which we're going to learn about more later. And they are pretty much able to conquer all the people, and the first empires that we're going to talk about in sub-Saharan Africa, many of them are Bantu empires.